Line's good.
Never on!
Whoa.
Hard! Hardly.
Come on, Brent. Line's good. Got real close.
The hair high, right?
Try and hit 2/3.
Have they saved it for her? Yes, they have.
Ooh, welcome to Game of Stones, everybody. I am Sean Graham, Scott alongside, as always. Hello, Scott.
Sean, how you doing, man? Wild and crazy week so far.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun watching along with the Scotties, and I have not played since the Scotties started, nor have you.
Nor have I, no.
Little strange.
It does feel strange, right? It's kind of a fun place to be at the curling center while the game is on, and people are watching after the game. But we'll have to wait for the Briar for that. I will anyway.
Yes,
We're playing again soon.
I'm scheduled to play tonight. Yeah, what's interesting about the way our schedules are split, or at least interesting to me, is that normally I play twice a week, and right now have 2 consecutive Mondays off. And then once our Monday team starts again, I have 2 consecutive Thursdays off. So 4 straight weeks of only one game. So a bit of a break in the overall schedule for me, but no break for those people out there playing in Kamloops. Did I get that right?
You got it.
Okay.
Kamloops.
Out in Kamloops at the Scotties Tournament of Hearts. As we record this, there are 2 draws left here on Thursday. We're recording in between the morning draw and the afternoon draw, which is late afternoon still for us here in Ontario. 2 draws left. A lot has been decided, though. Let's start particularly with Pool B, where Rachel Holman won this morning in her game against Andrea Kelly. So Pool B is fully set. Northern Ontario, Krista McCarville, they are through to the Friday night fun fest, which I think I'll call it. And Jennifer Jones and Rachel Holman will have to play tomorrow afternoon in the elimination crossover games. So that pool is completely set. Scott, Krista McCarville doesn't play today. Somebody had to have today off the way the schedule breaks. It happens to be them. I think it's a huge advantage for them that they got into the Friday night non-elimination game. I think this is what we used to see all the time when the 1-2 game was Friday night, the team who won that would have the full day off, go to the final. It wasn't necessarily an advantage. So I think for them not have to have a full day off right into an elimination game works out well for them.
Yeah, for sure. The way that the schedule breaks helps them. You're right, because jumping into an elimination game when you haven't been on the ice, I mean, they'll have gone on the ice, right? They will have practiced, but in a game setting for over a day, things can change. So being able to have that one game Friday night to sort of feel out how things are going and get the seeding all set won't be a bad thing for them.
No, absolutely not. They will definitely benefit from that. And as we look now at the afternoon draw, just sort of the way it happened to break, not really a game to pick, Scott. It's all Pool B, and everything's kind of set. So there's not really much to pick from here.
No, not too much to pick from this afternoon. I think they'll probably show. Oh, they've announced it's Manitoba against New Brunswick.
Okay. But it doesn't matter. Like I guess it matters in a sense between Jones and Holman potentially. No, it doesn't, because Jones beat Holman, right? So no, it does nothing. Yeah. Nothing. This trial really doesn't matter in terms of the playoffs.
No, not at all. Not at all. And Sean, I've been writing down the TV matchups on this trusty sheet of paper I have here. So we'll go into a full event regression analysis maybe next week.
That's always fun to do. I like analyzing the TV stuff. So yeah, Pool B is set. It is cooled. Jennifer Jones is 2. Rachel Holman is 3, and they will cross over against Pool A, where the only thing set right now is that Carrie Anderson is through to the Friday Fun Fest, and everybody else, with the exception of Suzanne Burt, Robin Silvernagle, and Bridget McPhail, are still in the mix. So you got Quebec 5-2, and then a group at 4-3 of Caitlin Laws, Clancy Grandy, Kayla Skrillick, and Christina Black. And the way the matchups go tonight, it is going to be BC against Alberta. That I would imagine has to be the feature game. And then Caitlin Laws, she is going to be playing against, I just had this, she's playing against Suzanne Burt.
I don't know, Sean. I think they might show Quebec and Nova Scotia.
Yeah, that's true. Because if Quebec comes down, Quebec could be eliminated because there's only going to be one tiebreaker matchup, and Laurie St. George's draw shot challenge is not very good. So kind of a must win, almost an elimination game for Quebec. Even if you look at the standings right now, you think, oh, they're in control. They're not really in control. They have to win.
Yeah. And if they lost, then Christina Black's team would be at 5-3, as would be Quebec. And then one of the either BC or Alberta will also be 5-3.
Yep.
And perhaps as well Caitlin Laws. So it could be a big logjam there, but like you say, just one tiebreaker draw will happen tomorrow morning, and everybody else will be eliminated on. It'll be head-to-head first amongst all the tied teams, and then draw shot challenge.
Yeah. What would be interesting though, Scott, if there happens to be 4 teams that tied at 3 losses, which is possible, have 2 tiebreaker games that get you the spot. And I don't know how you figure it out. I don't know if there's a fair way to figure it out, but you could, in theory, do that.
2 tiebreaker games for 1 spot?
No, for the 2 spots. Because only, right? Because only Carrie Anderson would be through at that point. So you could potentially have 2 games go on simultaneously for the 2 spots.
You could, yeah. That's it's one of your better ideas, Sean.
Thank you. I don't think they will do it. So that is the situation there in Pool A. So if you're not watching the afternoon game, you're not really missing much today in terms of playoff ramifications. It is Pool A tonight, the late draw that has everything on the line in terms of playoffs. As we've gone through the week, Scott, we haven't obviously seen the playoffs yet. I continue to not like this format, and I don't think we talked about it that clearly on the preview. But going from 9 to 3, I'm okay with. It's the Friday fun fest that I don't like. That Friday night draw, and maybe it's because the ratings are lower on Friday nights, that they're like, all right, like, I mean, it matters, but it doesn't fully matter. Like, it just, that draw just feels like a letdown, that you go from potentially a tiebreaker in the morning, elimination game in the afternoon, to seeding games.
Yeah, to like, let's have fun, everyone, right? And then I guess the teams that finished first in the pools get the advantage of the hammer and rock color in those games, but
and not having to play an elimination game. They didn't like.
Yeah, true.
That's an advantage.
But then if they lose them, then they're into the tougher path, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I was not clear on our preview show. I think you're right. We didn't really mention this format. We sort of talked about championship pool, but it's more 9 to 3 for seeding pool. So yeah, I don't like it either. I will say, Sean, we've been tough on Curling Canada the last 2 weeks. I will say that they made a good call in shuffling the pools so that people aren't playing split days all the time. So kudos on that. Plus, it's allowed for frankly, if you had Pool A and Pool B games always going on at the same time together, I think we would have seen enough of Carrie Anderson by this time in the week. There's no way that they wouldn't be featured in almost every game, but it's sort of given the broadcasters a little bit more leeway in what to choose for a TV game. And Curling Canada's Instagram feed has been really fun. So kudos on that too.
Yeah, I believe that's Danielle Inglis. I'm assuming that's Danielle Inglis who is doing that this week, because I know she's out there. So probably her doing all that.
It might be Kyle too, but all good. It's all fun.
Yeah, so I agree with the split. I know the players didn't like it when it was like A draws, B draws, because they didn't really see each other interact much. So I'm sure it's more fun for the players as well. And certainly for TV, it makes it a little more dynamic, that there's different things going on. There's more to talk about in terms of playoff ramifications as we've gone through the week, because the 2 different pools are on at the same time. So yeah, I do like that part of it. I don't know how much the players feel like splits are terrible compared to back-to-backs. Like, you saw it a little bit with, was it Kayla Skrillex yesterday? she makes, or no, excuse me, Clancy Grandy. She makes an insane shot in the afternoon draw in her last one to steal the victory. And then she has to come out, 80 minutes later and throw it. And they talked about it in the broadcast that Joe in particular said that's really hard to do. Like a big shot, a huge moment, especially as a rookie at this event. And then you go probably scarf down some like chicken and rice or whatever they have in the back there and come out and play again. That's really hard to do.
It's hard to do, but at the same time, the split days are also hard to do in a different sense. Like, what do we do for that huge amount of time, right? We go back, rest, then we got to get geared up again.
Yeah.
Like either way, it's tough
for sure.
But my feeling is that more players came out in favor of playing back-to-backs, vice the split days. So that's why they're trying it. I have no reporting on that, but that's my sense.
Yeah. But yeah, I agree that the schedule has been more engaging this way for sure as a fan, and we have seen some really good TV matchups. Last I saw, I don't know if you've done the math there, Scott. I think 12 teams have been featured. Is that roughly right?
Yes.
Okay, because we could probably count. So Nunavut, no. Is that the only team in that pool? Is Robin? I don't think Robin Silvernagel's got one yet.
She doesn't have a full one, but they switched over to her halfway through the Northwest Territories Manitoba game.
Yeah. And then Yukon and Newfoundland and Labrador have not.
That's right.
Did Casey Scheidegger get one?
No.
And did Carrie Galusha start as a feature at any point?
Yeah, against Jennifer Jones on Tuesday morning.
Okay. So that's pretty good then. That's 13 teams on a rough count. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I think we talked about this last year too, but I think TSN maybe has like a little crush on the Krista McCarville team. They're on a lot, and to be fair, they're really good, so it makes sense. But they do get featured quite a bit. Not in the last 2 days though, so maybe because they were so good, they stayed away.
Yeah. Well, their schedule was such too that there are bigger games, harder games, if you will, were early in the week. Like they started with Jones. Their third game was Homan, and then they had Kelly, so defending bronze medalist there. So those games were kind of stacked. The last three were Carrie Galusha, Haley Burney, Stacey Curtis.
Yeah.
So just the way they were stacked.
They were featured against Wildcard 3.
Yes, against Megan Walter as well.
I had circled in my notes, why was that not Christina Black against Carrie Anderson? But the game ended up being okay. So
yeah. So Scott, that does lead us to a couple themes that I think have emerged outside of just the TV conversation so far this week. The first of which, I think a lot of the discussion is centered around the McCarville team that I've seen, maybe because they've been on TV so much, but this is something that I've been seeing more and more. Just watch that Rachel Homan victory, and they talked about it with Emma Miskew, of course, being a former back-end player, Jill Brothers, a former skip, playing second, that we're seeing more and more. I don't even want to say the inclusion of the front end, but the front end's being more, I don't know what the right word is, but they're being more vocal in terms of their preferences on strategy. And I'm seeing this across the teams. And I will say that this is a pet peeve of mine when I play. So my feeling is, now this is as a rec player whose main concern is just pace of play, that if you're in the front end, play front end. And if you want to skip, go skip. It's my position as a player and as someone who plays front end that I really don't offer anything unless I'm asked, or I try not to, right?
Yeah.
Now, this is a totally different level, and I absolutely get it. These people are much better than me. But when you see routinely in the 10th end, teams are starting to have to rush a little bit, or Krista McCarville, for instance, I think she was down to 80 seconds at one point. She did have her 2 timeouts, so they had managed the time in that sense. But it makes me wonder, is the frequency of the front end contributing to strategy discussions entirely beneficial, or is it better if they pick their spots more judiciously than I feel like has been happening so far this week.
That's interesting. I wonder if we looked at the amount of time remaining on everyone's play clocks, what the data would find. Action item for me. So that might be it. And if we keep seeing this be an issue, I don't think it'll ever end up where somebody loses the game because their front end
No,
is talking too much, because it's the front end's job to watch the clock too, right?
right.
But yeah, maybe that's why. And maybe it's everybody is getting better, right? Like everybody is better at strategy now than they were 10 years ago even.
Sure.
Right? Like everybody on the team is more engaged. So maybe that's why.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I'm kind of with you, right? Like just play and whatever.
Yeah, because where we don't really see it much is with Carrie Anderson's team, and they all used to be skips, but for the most part, Carrie puts the broom down and they throw it and they make it. And through a bunch of other teams, I don't want to single any one team out because it seems to be happening a lot where the front end players are really vocal and saying, "Oh no, let's do this," and almost vetoing the skip at times, which seems strange.
Yeah, but sometimes it's not. It's the skip didn't see something, or the skip was deciding between two things. They chose one, but we're really 50-50 on it.
Right.
Like, and we're like, okay, we can try this other one. That was my other thought. If you like it better, sure.
Yeah, that's always my favorite when they yell down like, "Oh, let's do this," and the skip's like, "No, if we do this," and they're like, "Oh, whatever you like." Well, then it like it wasn't whatever you like.
It wasn't whatever
like,
you
come
like.
on. So that's just something I think to keep an eye on because you don't want to rush those late ends, and that's really I think the bigger concern, right? That if you have too much discussion early in the game in that front half, you are going to have to rush in that back half. And yet you can certainly lose a game in the first half for sure, right? It's certainly possible if you make a wrong decision. So it's not to minimize the strategy or decision-making process in the front half, but you just don't want to do that at the expense of having a time in the second half.
No, that's true. At the same time, if you have a situation where discussing it could lead to you getting 3 or 4, then it's absolutely worth taking the time, because maybe you don't even need that time at the end of the game, right? So I can see both sides.
Yeah, absolutely. And certainly this is something to keep an eye on too at the Briar as well, because this is something that I think newer at the Scotties. This is something we've seen at the Briar for a while, and I've disliked it then and with them. And there are certain teams that are no longer teams that I'm not upset that I don't have to listen to them on the men's side next week the way we had to in the past. So
yeah, but also, Sean, like a lot of these teams are new, right? So they're
yeah.
working out a bit their communication style. So it sort of makes sense that they would still be sort of developing that rapport, where a team like Carrie Anderson has 3 championships in a row. They've got their routine, their rhythms down pat.
Yeah. And again, totally different level from us. So, I can't really hold my standard of what a front end player should do to people who are at a national championship. So, it's just me. But Scott, you mentioned scoring big ends. There have been a lot of those. Points. This is the at midnight of Scotties, where it's just points. So we did the math before we started to record here. Last year, over the course of the Scotties, there were 12.72 points per game scored. This year, so far through 72 games, it is up to 14.23. So a point and a half more being scored per game. It's just crazy out there that you're seeing 2s and 3s, 4s. There was a 7 yesterday, which I would just say too, full credit to Bridget McPhail. Like, play aggressively, just go for it. Don't worry. Like, you give up a 7, you give up a 5, you go whatever. You're like, if you're gonna lose in a blaze of glory, I say. So good on her for playing aggressor through that whole end. It does end up giving the 7, a bunch of 5s as well. It's points galore. And even if you're scoring those, I believe Kayla Skrillick scored 4 or 5 against Caitlin Laws, still lost the game, which has been unheard of in the past few years. There's a lot of reasons why points could be up. No tick rule. The ice has been a little different. I don't want to say funky, but different from what a lot of these players might be used to in an arena setting. We'll talk about that in a second. I think it's pretty entertaining to have more points on the board, Scott, but what do you think?
Yeah, it's very entertaining, and I 100% think the tick rule is the reason for this, right? We're seeing many ends, starting with one in the house, corner guard, another one in the house, or just tight, go behind the corner guard, then another center guard. And so that, I guess that's 5 rock rule. But then the other one is getting those rocks on the center line for the team that's trying to steal.
Yeah.
It makes the 10th ends that are tied and the extra ends so much more exciting and interesting. And the shot making ability, like the level goes up a notch, right? When you have to make softer weight come arounds, especially on the ice where the weight is so important to what the rock is going to do. Like if you overthrow it a little bit, it's not going to curl up. So yeah, I think it's been great. Much more exciting to watch than we've seen the last few years.
And fewer blanks. And even when you did have a blank today, for instance, I think Rachel Homan made a triple or something. And
yeah,
right. And
yeah,
that's fine. You know, I don't like it when the second makes a triple and then it's just running up and down for the next eight rocks. But that was fine. Like, so you are seeing a lot of points being scored, and there are mistakes being made, obviously, because mistakes are made in every curling game, in every event all the time. But I feel like we're seeing fewer wide open misses than potentially in other events, and that speaks to the caliber of play. I would say that when you look over on the updates, teams that would traditionally have more mistakes, Nunavut, Yukon, for instance, you're not seeing that as much. Like Bridget McPhail is making more shots. Again, this is selective on what they're showing us. Same with Haley Burney. I mean, she has multiple threes so far. Yeah. She took Rachel Homan to the 10th end. Like they're playing more competitively than they have in the past. And it's wonderful to see, and it's contributing to more points being scored.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking at the blank ends here, and like Ontario and Caitlin Laws have 8 blank ends each, but that's by far the most. Most teams have 2 or 3.
It's great.
So yeah, if you're not blanking ends, it's because you're scoring, right? So I think it's been really good. And like you say, like full credit to Yukon for just putting those rocks in play and like you say, making it interesting. It's kind of like what we do at the rec level is like, all right, let's just put rocks in play and see what happens. Maybe we can get one miss. Yeah. And if not, maybe we can sneak something in. But yeah, no, definitely scoring's up. And I think it's to the benefit of the fans. Sean, I've been watching a lot of the games on like double or triple speed through my DVR, and the amount of ends where I've just like kept going because it's hit. I can count like on less than one hand. So it's made it more challenging to watch them all, but definitely more exciting.
Yeah, it definitely been a lot more fun. No question about it. And I'll say too about Haley Burney. Line of the week for me on the hot mic. She missed her last shot in the 10th end against Rachel Homan. So Rachel Homan had a wide open hit to win. And Haley Burney says, I hear she's prone to flashing. Just, hold out hope,
A little tongue in cheek.
Yeah. So another thing that's been really fun, or at least I think it's been fun, we've had some crazy measurements so far this week.
Yeah. A lot of like no decisions, right?
Yeah. Like there's been I've seen one tie for sure. There's been a lot that have been multiple times around. The craziest one was Team Canada against Caitlin Laws, I believe, where they went around. The first official said it was Team Wildcard. And then Val Sweden said, "Are you sure?" They brought in a second official who said, no, it was Team Canada. And I'll say, when I was looking at it on the first passer, I thought, yeah, it's Team Canada. And I was
Yeah, me
stunned
too.
when he goes, it's red. I'm like, wait, what? And then he's like,
Yeah.
well, it's either a tie or it's red. And I'm like, what? This is not, what is this, the schoolyard? Like, what are we doing? And I was thinking, Scott, I made a lot of jokes. And even when I made a bingo card once of the official's head blocking the micrometer on the measure, maybe they need to block the micrometer because then they can see it. Like if they're not looking straight down at it,
Hmm.
because they're aware that the camera is above them, maybe that is causing some of the issue. I don't know, but I've never seen so many multiple times around in an event as we have this week.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's crazy. And the one you were talking about, Laura Walker said, so the head official came out to measure, and she said, so because he said it was red twice and you said it was Canada once, like that's what happens. Like I don't get it. Yeah, there was one this morning too. There was or maybe it was a game I was watching on the replay from last night. But yeah, so many weird
Yeah,
measurements. And I think the officials might have been told to not let your head block the
maybe.
camera, because I haven't seen it at all this week. We talked to somebody about the laser, right? About why we can't use the laser.
Yeah, Curling Canada tweeted that the micrometer is more accurate to a closer degree than the laser is.
Yeah, and because like the laser could hit maybe a small pit on the
Yeah,
rock or something, and it would be different. So
yeah.
yeah, but I don't know. Let's just agree on something and
Well,
maybe have the micrometer be digital rather than
yeah,
analog.
I think that probably is a good solution to it. But also, if the laser isn't that, like, if it's less accurate, should we really be eliminating
What do we?
teams on it potentially? I
Yeah,
mean, I realize the difference isn't going to come down to that level. It's
yeah,
multiple centimeters that it's going to be the difference. But it did seem weird with like Curling Canada tweets out, oh, it's not as accurate, but also we're going to eliminate teams using it. Like, wait, what? What am I?
what are we doing here,
Weird.
man?
Yeah, but the measures have been fun. Like people tend
For
to not
sure.
like when officials are involved in stuff. This is enjoyable though.
Yeah, and I think the officials have all been really good sports, and
Yeah.
talking to the players and saying, listen, like it looks pretty similar. They call different people in, they reset the micrometer, like so the players aren't like angry at the officials, but they're still getting some time. It's
Yeah.
pretty good.
Yeah. This isn't like Mark Kennedy at the Briar in 2020, where the official just did a bad measure. And
Yeah.
he called it like this is much different. So I've really enjoyed the measurements. Another thing that I think has been very noticeable on TV, been a little frosty out there. And it's really visible frosts, but from all accounts, the ice is holding up. They've talked a lot about the different type of pebbling that they might be
Hmm.
doing, where the speed is holding up through the course of the game, which is a lot of fun to see. I think that instead of really sliding down, because Scott, in the slide path after two practices and 10 ends, it can really get worn down there. I don't know if that's ever come up on the broadcast before, but
Huh.
it's nice to see that the speed is holding up through the course of the game, and that
Hmm.
you don't need the major adjustment late in the game. That if you have draw weight throughout, it seems like it's going to hold up through the 10th end. We'll see if that changes with bigger crowds, hopefully bigger crowds over the course of the weekend, with only one, once we get to one sheet as well. But you know more about the science of the ice than I do. What are you thinking about how the players are talking about it, how it's holding up, and whether or not the visual of the frost is actually having any impact?
Yeah, I think the visual is a lot more misleading than what's actually happening on the ice. The pebble is holding up, like you said, such that the speed is not dramatically different from the start of the game to the end. What you're seeing on the TV with the frost is staying like underneath the layer of the pebble. So like the rocks are still gliding well on top of the pebble, and what you're seeing is sort of in between the pebble where you can see it, which is why like it looks so different where the play has happened versus way out on the wings. So I think if you get like way outside, like like outside half of the 12 foot. Maybe you'd see some effect on the rock, but within the normal playing parameters, things have been pretty straight, or not straight, but pretty well held up through all the games. And yeah, it's a bit of an illusion what you see on TV.
Yeah, I would say the ice seems a little straight. Like they're throwing outside edge of 8 foot for draws to the button, where typically
Yeah.
in arena events we're seeing mid 12 foot and sometimes outside 12 foot. So it looks like they're getting about 4 feet on draws when it's going well. And a lot of the
Yeah,
hits
maybe
are
a
pretty
bit
dead
more.
straight.
Maybe a bit more depending on the exact path, right? But yeah, I think it's been pretty good.
Yeah, it's no complaints from the players, which is always good to see. Certainly, there's patches and stuff. And in the game today, both teams were talking about a rut on one side of the ice potentially. So that comes up over the course of the week. But overall, it seems like it has held up quite nicely. And then the final thing, Scott, for me, is it's certainly not the end of the week. We have to see what happens over the weekend. But I don't know if I owe Joanne Courtney an apology. I think CBC owes Joanne Courtney an apology. She's really good.
She's been great.
She's been really, really good. And
Yeah.
she's adding the front end perspective, which we haven't had for a long time. She has done, I think, a really good job in the games where they've had Rachel Homan on, using the knowledge of how they do things without feeling like she's rooting for her friends, which she could very well be. And I don't think anyone would be necessarily mad if on a personal level she wants her friends to win.
Yeah.
But it's been a really good broadcast. It's been a really good addition to the team. And having her go in there and not be with Vic all the time too. I don't like this development, by the way. Brian's great. We all like Brian.
Vic's back this afternoon.
Okay. For the game that doesn't matter.
I know.
So, and again, if at this point Vic has earned his afternoons off, if that's what he wants.
Yeah.
But to also have to go then between two different lead play-by-play people in an environment where you're working with all new people. She's never worked with Russ before or Kathy before, the crew as well. She's done a really good job sliding right in there, and it's been a wonderful addition, I think.
Yeah. Some of the stuff that she's offered with respect to like the team communication things. She's brought up some things with Team McCarville, I think, saying, oh, like usually Kendra would be going to stand with Krista, so she'd be able to tell her about how she threw. But since she's not, maybe she wasn't getting the same information and threw heavy on a shot, right? So like really interesting tidbits that stood out to me. Yeah, I think, we're not going to anoint her as the best curling announcer ever, because Tony Romo was really good at the beginning and I think has regressed a bit. But no, she's been amazing. Like, great, no notes, amazing.
Absolutely. She's been really, really great for sure. And I mean, you got to do it for another 20 years to get into Linda Moore territory.
Of course, yes.
But yeah, she's been a really solid addition to the booth for sure. And now the question is, because they only announced her for this, they didn't announce anything for the Brier. And again, she does have a full-time job and an important job too, not like a job that like you and I, it's, so, she helps people. So as a nurse, so I don't know what the actual practicalities are for her, but certainly I would not object to her being at this point, at the Brier and potentially this full-time filler of that seat.
Yeah.
So anything else from the Scotties, Scott?
I'm trying to think. It's been fun seeing sort of the younger teams play and get some airtime. The Wildcard 3 team, whatever they're being called now, Abby Ackland, or
I think it's fully Megan Walters at this point.
It's fully Megan Walters' team. Okay, they've been pretty fun to watch. Very up and down, which is going to happen in your first big event. It's been fun to watch Jennifer Jones being like reinvigorated by this young team. I think Glenn Howard had a quote that it was like he was seeing vintage Jennifer Jones out there this week, and yeah, she's like really into it. energized, communicating with the rest of the team. Like, really good. I thought she would take some games off. She hasn't, eh?
Not that I'm aware of.
No. So yeah, I thought she might sit maybe today, maybe
Yeah,
now.
today's game potentially, but I think they had a full day off too. Maybe that changed
Okay.
their math.
Yeah. And anyway, I just thought she might because she's Jennifer Jones and can do whatever she wants. But
Sure.
no, I've enjoyed all the teams, watching everybody. Robin Silvernagel, tough week. PEI, tough week. But they've been in a lot of the games. So, like, it's not like they've been getting blown out every game. And yeah, huge win for Yukon and Haley Burney in her first Scotties win. So
Yeah.
congrats there. I think it's been fun. I'm excited for the weekend, and looking forward to that championship game on Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. And let me just correct myself. They did not have a full day off. So
Okay.
they haven't played since yesterday morning. So they've had 27 hours between games or whatever it is. But
yeah, so she's going to play.
you would think so. Yeah. Keep it fresh and keep things going. I've noticed this for a while. I don't think we've ever talked about it in the show. One of my favorite visuals in curling is when Jennifer Jones throws and she stays crouched and puts her hand, like sort of leans her elbow on her knee and then kind of watches it. And like,
yeah,
it's almost like, like what's going to happen? Like it's the thinker pose.
Yeah.
Like I've never seen anybody else do that. And I think it's just a wonderful visual of her just being like, what's going to happen? Or like, or I just think of her just being like, yeah, I'm going to make it. I'm Jennifer F. Jones.
Yeah. Damn right.
Yeah.
Damn right.
Yeah. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun so far this week coming in to the weekend. Of course, probably, I don't know if there's a scenario where there's no tiebreaker game tomorrow. I would think that that's probably locked in stone at this point, that there's going to be one.
I guess if let me look at the schedule.
Like if Laurie St.
for
George
tonight
wins, Caitlin Laws loses, and Christina Black loses.
Well, if Laurie St. George wins, then
She's in.
Christina Black will have lost.
Right.
Then yeah, if Laws loses, they'll both be 4-4, and then the winner of BC and Alberta will get the last spot. So yeah, there's a way that there would be no tiebreakers, but I think it's unlikely.
Well, we know which way Kathy Goche is rooting. Give her a break. Let her sleep. So there you go. That's the setup here as we sit Thursday afternoon. Will be a very, very fun weekend, and we will be with you following the event. We are going to record Monday. Or the plan is potentially to record Monday. Some logistical issues might get in the way, but the plan will be to record Monday, get that out Monday night. So do subscribe if you have not yet. Everywhere you get your podcast, likes, rates, comments, all that good stuff helps other people find the show. Of course, you can follow along with everything we got going on social media at Game of Stones Pod, Twitter, Instagram, Game of Stones Podcast on Facebook, Game of Stones Podcast at gmail.com. If you want to reach out, and head on over to GameofStonesPod.com. Of course, you can head over to the Instagram page as well. The contest, what are we calling it? Is it a contest? Is it a draw? What do we do? What did we name it?
I called it a giveaway.
Okay, yeah, giveaway. I like that. We're doing a giveaway of a painting of Ilse Craig, which is where they mine all of the granite for Curling Rocks. A wonderful painting by our friend Daniel, who's an artist over in Scotland. So head on over to the Instagram page and enter that. There's still time as we record this and release it. Head on over there. We will pick a winner at some point on the weekend, and we will announce that on Monday's show.
Yes. And it's a print of a painting. It's not an actual painting, but it's still beautiful and lovely, and would look nice in anyone's home.
Well, you know that for a fact because you have one.
I do, yeah, and I have the exact one that we're giving away just up on my shelf there. It's great to look at.
Yeah, so do head on over to Game of Stones Pod Instagram page and enter for that. And as I said last time, we will cover the cost of getting it to you as well.
Yes,
so don't let that inhibit you from entering the giveaway. So with that, Scott, safe travels this weekend. We're both on the road.
Yeah, you too.
And enjoy yourself. You're going somewhere where I believe it's much colder than where I'm going. Are you nervous?
No, I'm not nervous at all. It's not going to be that cold. It'll be warmer than here, actually, warmer than Ottawa.
Okay. So
Yeah,
that's good. Now your friend is coming from BC who you're meeting.
that's right.
How's he going to do?
Oh, he runs hot, so you'll be fine.
All right.
I'm trying to decide to take my parka or to take my spring coat and layer. It's really a tough decision. So
yeah,
I'll give an update on that on Monday.
All right. Well, good luck to you, Scotty.
Thanks.
And enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the playoffs, everybody. We'll be back with you to wrap it all up on Monday. But until then, keep those brooms on the ice and don't dump that intern.
Make the final.